With the recent banning of Nadu, there have been a few articles released about its design and what happened. There are two in particular I'm talking about, one by Mark Rosewater and one by Michael Majors, who was the lead designer for Modern Horizons 3. Both of these articles are linked in the description if you want to give them a read. The summary is, the funny bird was designed as a card for Commander, but instead of going into the Commander precons, they put it in the main set, which is Modern legal. We also learned that Nadu was originally a pretty different card. It was all about giving flash to your permanents. This new version is a last-minute change, after the Modern testers had left, right before the set came out. They made this change because they thought the first version would be too annoying or powerful in EDH. The discussion has caused a lot of players to scream out, "Stop designing cards for Commander." And in Rosewater's article, he addresses this point, saying that it's unreasonable to stop designing for Commander because it's the most popular format, which is fair. And all of this got me thinking about if cards should be designed for Commander. Before I answer that, if you want to buy some cards designed for Commander, then consider going to this video's sponsor, Cool Stuff Inc. You can use code TTM for a discount, and it supports the channel. Thanks to Cool Stuff Inc. for sponsoring the video. So Nadu is funny because this was designed for Commander, yet creates gameplay patterns that work poorly in casual Commander. And those gameplay patterns happen when it's combined with one of the most popular cards in all of EDH. It's just funny that they missed this interaction, which is fine, mistakes happen. It's also kind of funny that they supposedly tried to improve Nadu by changing it from the original version, so it wouldn't be too busted for Commander, yet Nadu is a top-tier CDH commander and is easily one of the strongest commanders ever made. It's also very odd that this is a build-around legendary creature not in a commander product, even though there was one available tied to Modern Horizons 3 where it could have been. And Rosewater does address this in the article, saying not every card in any given set will see play in competitive formats, so they have space to throw in some commander cards here and there. Normally this is a fine point. Though I feel like Modern Horizons 3, the set designed exclusively supposedly for Modern, might be an exception to that rule. Anyway, everything about Nadu here specifically is kind of whatever. They made a last minute change to a card and it was accidentally too good. It's happened before. They make last minute tweaks to cards all the time. It's rare that one becomes too busted after a change. But it's all good now, right? They banned Nadu in Modern. A bit late, but sure, better late than never. And now we can go back to designing cards for Commander, preferably in Commander products. Oh, right. Let's focus back on Commander as a whole. The broader implications of designing for Commander in standard sets is something for another video, maybe a podcast topic. Oh yeah, if you didn't see last week's video, I'm starting a podcast with a woodland creature. Subscribe and hit the bell if you want to stay up to date with when that comes out. It'll be in early September. There are a lot of cards designed for Commander these days, with a set of precons tied to every single set, and all those precons having dozens of new made for Commander cards. We get a lot of them, and some of them I'm not a huge fan of. Dockside, free with your Commander cards, and a few others are just not super great for the format. They were designed for Commander, put in Commander products, and they don't affect other formats negatively, which is great. But they affect EDH negatively, which is not great. There are a lot of cards these days that are designed not just with multiplayer in mind, but designed to be good in multiplayer specifically. When Commander first got popular, a lot of players loved the idea of using old cards that never saw competitive play and getting to use them in this new format, breathing life into a lot of those old jank cards. But a large amount of these cards have fallen to the wayside in casual play, because there's probably a card printed for the format that does what the old card did, but way better. And even though this is a casual format, players still like playing strong cards, and usually feel like they should upgrade the older version to the new one. So is the answer Wizards should just ignore EDH entirely and print cards for other formats exclusively? I don't think it's that simple. For starters, because of the popularity of Commander, they stand to make a lot of money from printing cards that EDH players want. And if you print something that is a staple, you'll make that product fly off the shelves. The precon that originally had Dockside in it did not last very long on shelves. It's really easy for them to print a card that is busted in Commander, throw it in a precon, and then that precon will sell out. But also, I'm looking at the worst offenders. Like I said, hundreds of cards are made for the format every year now. But for every bad design, there are lots of great designs. For example, I really love the goad mechanic. I made a whole video about it. Goad is a fun mechanic that only works in multiplayer. It's really unique, and it moves Commander games along in a way that I really love. But it doesn't have to be a mechanic. Cards like Prisoner's Dilemma. This is a super fun, interesting card to play. It's not super powerful or anything, but the card is cool and interesting, and it leads to fun politics and hilarious moments. I really need to find a deck for this card because I think it's just so funny whenever someone casts it. And there are a ton of other examples of designed for Commander cards, or commanders designed for the format, that are interesting and fun. Seriously, check out last week's video. I went over a bunch of budget designed for Commander cards with my friend 33Elk. So a blanket statement like stop designing cards for Commander is sort of silly. I agree that some of the charm of the format is lost when you're not building decks out of old standard bulk rares. But a lot of these Commander cards are cool and fun. I actually really liked almost all of the face commanders from the MH3 precons. I think they're all really interesting, unique cards, other than the Eldrazi one. And why is that? I think ultimately my thoughts on Commander design is that Wizards should design cards for the format, but not powerful cards. In a normal set, when Wizards wants to push an archetype, like Boros Mouse Aggro for example, they print synergistic aggressive mice. Cards designed to be powerful in that type of deck. And they did. These aggro mice do see play in red aggro decks in standard right now, and it's a real powerful deck. These cards need to be strong though, because when people play standard tournaments, they want the most powerful cards and are not going to be including bad ones, even if the design is fun. This is not the case for Commander. Of course, players do like power. Like I said, they'll often switch to a power crept version of a card over time. And a very underpowered commander would be uninteresting. I've learned that as I was looking at all of these old commanders in my Ranking Every Legend series. So many of these just don't do anything and are therefore not interesting. But if we look at MH3, Nadu is the strongest commander, but not the most popular. Necrobloom actually has quite a few more decks on EDH Rec than Nadu. And that's even with the popularity boost that the bird is getting from CEDH and just being the talk of the town. Let's look at Outlaws. Obeka is not the most busted commander from that set, but it is very popular. Also, Bloomburrow. The distribution of commander decks here is actually a lot more even than in other sets, but all of these still have thousands of decks. They're all pretty popular commanders, and the set isn't even that old yet. All of these are just fun build-arounds that are not overpowered in any particular way. And this is where Commander really shines, when we have interesting, fun, cool cards that result in unique, exciting moments in games of Commander. This is why I don't like cards like Ulalek Fused Atrocity. The ability rewards you for casting things, which is fine, but my problem is the mana cost actually. Normally, Eldrazi decks have the downside of being colorless, but this one gets all the benefits of being a 5-color deck, where you can use all of the powerful cards to back up your Eldrazi. The downside has been removed. It's kind of the best Eldrazi commander in terms of power you could have right now. There's no longer a decision about which one of these Eldrazi commanders you're going to play. The decision has been made for you for the most part if you care about power, which a lot of players do. It homogenizes Eldrazi decks. And I think this does not lead to fun gameplay. It's just now I have to deal with Fierce Guardianship against the quote-unquote colorless Eldrazi deck, whereas normally I wouldn't have to see that card as often. I'm not saying powerful cards can't be interesting or fun, it's just that they tend to not be, since you need less synergy to get them to work. And games tend to revolve around whether or not you untap with your powerful card or not. I hope we see more designed for commander cards in the future, which we definitely will, that are more synergistic, more pieces of the puzzle rather than a big bomb that you untap with and win the game, or something generically powerful that you can jam in every single deck. Now I might hear you say, doesn't that make you a bit of a hypocrite, since you play many of these powerful designed for commander cards in your commander decks? Honestly, yeah, that's fair. If you go to my Moxfield page, you'll see my decks, and you can see Smothering Tithe, and Dockside, and Fierce Guardianship. A few things to say about that. For any CEDH deck, I kinda need to play the best spells and free interaction to have a chance at winning. So I'm not gonna be cutting Fierce Guardianship from my CEDH list anytime soon. For For high power casual decks, you could kind of argue the same. If everyone's running these cards, then do you need to do the same to keep up with the power level? I'm not sure that's true. There was a tweet that got me thinking about this recently. Budget Commander, aka Tomer, said, if you want slower commander games, then stop running fast mana. If you want less non-games where one person immediately snowballs out of control, then stop running fast mana. It's always fast mana. Mana Crypt, Jeweled Lotus, Ancient Tomb, and yes, Sol Ring. For a long time now, I've always operated on the idea that these cards are fine to play. It really depends on the context. One strong card does not make a EDH deck. This is why I don't think Smothering Tithe is really problematic in my Heliod mono white Drago control deck, because the theme inherently makes the deck weak, so powerful support cards are needed to let it compete with other random casual lists. It's also why I play tutors in my casual commander decks. Using Demonic Tutor to grab a combo piece is very different than using Demonic Tutor to grab my hidden commander in the 99. But going back to this tweet, if I'm not playing CDH and I'm not trying to run away with the game really early in especially a slow control deck, then do I need these fast mana pieces? Should I not just skip them? If someone else has a fast start, then can't I just focus the table on them via politics and come ahead later on in the game? So, unlike some of my other videos where I try to give advice on how you can improve your deck, I'm going to suggest an experiment, and I will be doing this experiment as well. I'm going to try cutting a lot of generic powerful staples from my casual EDH decks. Not all of them, like tutors, will probably stay in for my toolbox decks or decks that have hidden commanders. But I will try cutting Sol Ring, Mana Crypt, Rhystic Study, and Dockside from my lists. I'm also going to test out cutting the free spell cycle, although I don't think I play Fierce in any of my casual decks. So it's going to be the Design for Commander free spells and generic accelerants mana card draw that I'm going to be cutting. And then I'm going to try to fill that with more synergistic options for draw and removal. Ultimately, I think since all my decks play removal and card draw as is, I'm not going to fall too much behind. When someone uses a Jeweled Lotus to ramp their commander out really early and try and get ahead, usually early removal is enough to stop that. Sending it back to the command zone with a commander tax sets them pretty far behind. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I do need these cards at random casual pods. After some time testing this, I'm going to make a follow-up video and see where I land. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Are you interested in this idea of cutting Sol Ring? Have you ever tried this before? I know I'm not the first content creator to make a video about this idea. Do you think I'm going to lose a lot more games? I am keeping track of my stats, so we'll see. Leave some predictions in the comments as well, so when I do my follow-up video, I can refer back to your predictions. Thank you so very much for watching. If you like my content, consider joining my Patreon. You can join the Discord and suggest ideas for videos in the future, or get access to many other perks, like my tier 3 patrons who get to be in the credits.